Hello, everybody. I hope you all had a nice long weekend, got some rest, and getting ready for a short 3-day week. If you're seeing this video, it's probably because I got my second COVID vaccine and might not be feeling the greatest. But regardless, it's very exciting because we got some light at the end of the tunnel. I think it was about a year ago today when I was making my very first video when we went emergency remote, thinking it would be for 2 weeks and ended up being much longer. So it's exciting that there's some light at the end of the tunnel here. Okay, so game plan. Hopefully the sub had you guys working for the first half of class on your FRQ workshop. And then for this video, we'll be focusing on the different types of intelligence. So let's get started. Remember, cognition, this is our biggest unit of the AP exam. Bulk of it spent on memory, and we just kind of finished up our discussions on thinking, decision making, creativity, and then language we'll talk about and developmental psych. So we're going to end this unit by talking about intelligence. Today's going to be dedicated to the different theories and types of intelligence, and then tomorrow is going to be talking more about intelligence testing. So what is intelligence? You guys are doing your guided notes, so I'd like you to, on your guided notes, give a little brainstorm of what you think intelligence is. And I want you to do a quick journal as well. So, what do you think defines intelligence? What makes a person or characterizes a person as being intelligent? Also, like we did with creativity, who is the most intelligent person you know and why? What makes them intelligent? What are their characteristics? And then, probably the most interesting of these, throwing it back to Unit 1 in nature versus nurture, do you think that intelligence is determined more by a person's nature or their nurture? So, do you think intelligence is more an innate thing caused by our genes and it's inherited and passed down and we're kind of born with a certain level of intelligence? Or do you think that it's something that's determined by the environment we're in, by how we were raised, where we're from, the type of schooling we had, and maybe the amount of work we put in? What do you think? Go ahead and journal about that in your notes. Anywho, so our official definition of intelligence is the mental quality consisting of the ability to learn from experience, solve problems, and use knowledge to adapt to new situations. So just like creativity, sometimes we have kind of a narrow idea of what intelligence is defined as well. So yes, this could apply to school and academic subjects, but I think this definition of intelligence is much broader than we think and applies to many more situations in life than just being, book smart, right? So looking at this definition, yes, right, we got Einstein might be considered smart because he learns from experience and trial and error, solves problems, and that type of thing. But could Giannis, our pro basketball player, be considered intelligent by this definition as well? Take a second, think about it. I would say that Giannis is intelligent according to this definition. Because think about it, right? He has to learn from experience. Every game and every team you play, you have to think about that experience and adjust accordingly, right? If you play a team earlier in the season, then you play them again, you learn from that experience. You know what to expect from some of the players and some of the moves they make and some of their skills so you can adapt and solve problems moving on. So the next time you play them, you improve. So I would definitely say that, again, this type of intelligence, this definition, applies more than just being book smart, but to kind of all different types of things that you're encountering in the world. So this leads to another question. Could a person who excels in just one specific area be considered intelligent? Or do you need to be intelligent in multiple different areas in order to be considered intelligent? So could you be really good at music and just terrible at everything else in school and still be considered intelligent? Or do you need to be good at reading, writing, math, science, and some more creative outlets and whatnot in order to be considered intelligent? Well, we're going to see today that this question makes up the crux of the different theories of intelligence. Some psychologists, we're going to see, believe that you need to be intelligent in a wide variety of things in order to be considered intelligent, that you kind of have a general level of intelligence that determines your abilities in a variety of things. Others are going to say, no. Intelligence isn't just one general thing. You can be intelligent in one thing and not another and still be considered intelligent, right, in that one thing. So this is, again, kind of this question is where the different psychologists and their theories of intelligence emerge and how they differ. So we're going to talk about three different psychologists and their different theories of intelligence. So there's three people and three theories that they have that you need to know and should be able to memorize. So you need to memorize the people and know which theory corresponds with that psychologist. So if I had to pick the most important people to know in this unit, it's probably going to be these three guys coming up. So our first theory of intelligence is done by a guy named Charles Spearman. And he is one who says intelligence is one thing. So you need to be, doing well in multiple areas in order to be considered intelligence. You can't just be intelligent when it comes to like art. You have to be intelligent in everything. So this is what he calls our single general intelligence, often denoted by this little baby G here. So he says that this underlies our specific mental abilities in different areas. So if you see in this picture here, he says that we have one general intelligence, and this determines how we're going to perform in different areas. So if we have a high general intelligence, we're going to do well in verbal reasoning, quantitative, so numbers, abstract visual reasoning. So he says that this general intelligence, this one thing, determines how we do in a multitude of subjects. So if we have low general intelligence, we're probably not going to do well in all of these different things. But if we have high general intelligence, we'll be doing well in all of these. So he's basically saying that this will determine how we do in all of these. It's unlikely that we're going to be really good at verbal reasoning and then bad at quantitative reasoning. He says that general intelligence kind of determines how we do in all of these categories. So kind of we have one overall level of intelligence. It's not going to differ between different subjects. And how he determined this is through a statistical analysis procedure called factor analysis. So factor analysis is what he used to give empirical evidence to his general intelligence theory, right? He's using scientific evidence through multiple trials and statistical analysis to provide some evidence for this. So factor analysis is a statistical procedure that identifies clusters of related items on a test. So again, Spearman is saying that factor analysis, by doing this, we can look and see that if you do well in one area of a test, in one category or cluster of material, it's going to predict that you're going to do well in other clusters of material and other types of questions. So let's go back here. Let's say that this is kind of a general IQ test he gives someone. So there's going to be a variety of questions on verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, abstract visual reasoning. And he's going to look and see, again, this is a cluster, and this is a cluster. So he's going to take a look and see if there's trends. And he saw, okay, if people do well in verbal reasoning, they're probably doing well in quantitative and abstract visual too. And same thing and vice versa, right? If they did well in abstract, they also were doing well in quantitative and verbal. So he would determine that these people have a high general intelligence, right? Intelligence is one thing. If you're doing well in one, you're doing well in others. And if you're doing poorly in one, you are more likely to do poorly in the others. So maybe you would have a low general intelligence. So we saw intelligence is one thing. You're not good at one thing and bad at another. It's kind of you have one overall level of intelligence. So let's take a look at how you could use factor analysis for our class. So when I set up a test and if I use questions from the book, it'll tell me kind of different categories and different types of questions. So this is our Unit 1 test. So question 6 was based on Psychological Science Develops. It was a factual and definition-based question. Same thing, question 7, the type of question or category was careers in psychology, and this was a factual or definition-based question. But we see question 11 and 12, question 12 is based on conceptual or application-based, so a little different than just knowing the definition. So for me, if I was looking and trying to do factor analysis, I would look at the cluster related to, question 7. This was a factual definition one. Okay, People did pretty well in this one. Then I'd go back and let's say, okay, let's look at 12 because this one was more about application. So that's a separate cluster. Oh, everyone did really well on these. So maybe I'd say we have a general level of intelligence in this class because your performance on one cluster of information on factual definition-based questions predicted that you would also do well on application-based questions. So that's factor analysis. You're kind of comparing how you're doing in 2 or 3 or multiple different categories or clusters of or styles of questions, right? Factual or definition-based questions versus more application-based questions. Now, our next guy is Howard Gardner. He's a cute little old man here. So he disagreed with Spearman's concept of general intelligence. He says we do not have just one level of intelligence that determines how we perform in a variety of areas. Rather, we have multiple intelligences. In fact, we have 8 different types of intelligences. So you could be good at one and bad at others, and you could still be considered intelligent in that one area. So intelligence is multiple different types of abilities. And we also see that an issue with Spearman is he's much more into like academic school type intelligences you would see on an intelligence test. Whereas Gardner sees things that aren't always tested in school intelligence tests, like your bodily kinesthetic ability or your musical ability. So I would recommend knowing these 8 different types of intelligences just to be able to like pull them out of the bag if you're talking about this in like an FRQ, or you might see a multiple choice question. So just kind of understand a little bit the gist of what they're all about. Of course, visual spatial, you think that's something related to visual stuff, maybe more artistic, linguistic, verbal. Of course, this is your ability to express thoughts out loud or in writing. Interpersonal is your ability to communicate and have relationships with others. Intrapersonal is understanding yourself. So maybe you have a good understanding of like your emotions and your thoughts and feelings. Logical, mathematical, obviously that's more kind of like analytical, like understanding relationships between things. Musical, obvious, bodily, kinesthetic. Remember we talked about kinesthetic is like understanding your body position. So this would be tied in with dancing and being able to do movement stuff. And naturalistic is looking at kind of the environment. So Howard Gardner, just like we talked about how Spearman uses factor analysis as his form of empirical evidence, Gardner uses kind of case studies of people with savant syndrome to give empirical evidence to this multiple intelligence theory. So savant syndrome is a condition where a person who has otherwise limited in their mental abilities has an exceptional intelligence in something really specific. So often you see this is like computation. So these, when we talked about like people who can memorize like all the digits of pi, or people who can just memorize like tons of numbers and crazy things like that, or maybe in a skill like drawing. So a very specific skill. These people are incredibly intelligent. But in other skills, they often more like basic, especially like social skills, they might not reach their full capacity. So this is savant syndrome. And he uses case studies on people with savant syndrome to give evidence for multiple intelligence theory. Because he's saying, like, how can you not consider these people intelligent? Like, they are able to recall 500 million, like they're like human calculators. They're so intelligent in this one thing. You can't compare anyone else to them, that they're so highly intelligent in this one area. But by what we see with Spearman, Spearman would say, no, they're not intelligent because they're not doing well in all the abilities, so they wouldn't have high general intelligence. Howard Gardner says that's ridiculous, right? These people are clearly really, really intelligent and genius level at this one thing. This is evidence for the existence of multiple intelligence, right? They're intelligent in this one area, but maybe not as much in others. So here's a little video of, if you've seen Rain Man, great movie, highly recommend it. And it talks about one of the characters in there is a autistic savant when it comes to counting. So he's really, really good at counting abilities. But we see in other areas of his life, he doesn't meet that. So let's take a look here.
Coffee?
Yes, that'd be good. Sally Dibs Sally. 461-0192.
How did you know my phone number?
How'd you know that? You said read the telephone book last night. Dibs Sally. 461.
Right, so he's memorized the entire giant phone book of
little
numbers. Right, that is his specific area that he's intelligent at, is this memorization of numbers.
How'd you do that?
You memorized the whole book?
No.
You start from the beginning?
Yeah.
How far did you get?
G.
G?
G. God save William Marshall. God save.
You memorized G.
Yeah, G.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
G. Half a G.
That's good, Ray.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Were you hungry?
Yeah. Tuesday we have pancakes.
Pancakes. Well,
Yeah.
that sounds good. We get some
Maple syrup.
Hey, bet your butt.
Bet your butt. Uh-oh.
We have pancakes.
Uh-oh. Of course,
What is this, Ray?
Of course, I don't have my toothpicks.
No, you don't need toothpicks. I was okay in the hotel last night with the pizza, but in a restaurant, you need a fork.
Of course, I don't have my toothpicks.
You don't need toothpicks, Ray. Pancakes keep slipping off, so you need with a fork.
I don't have my maple syrup either. I'm gonna be without my maple syrup and my toothpicks.
You don't see any pancakes, do you, Ray?
Of course, yeah, Thomas maple syrup is not here.
Ray? When we order the pancakes, they're going to bring the maple syrup.
Maple syrup is supposed to be on the table before the pancakes.
We haven't ordered yet, Ray.
Of course, when they bring the maple syrup after the pancakes, it'll definitely be too late.
How is that going to be too late, huh, Ray? We haven't ordered the pancakes yet. How is that going to be
We're gonna be here the entire morning with no.
So
with no
again,
maple
you
syrup
see
and
that
no
he
toothpicks.
is,
I'm definitely
insanely
not
smart in
gonna-
one
not gonna have
area,
my
but
pancakes with
struggles with some of the
Ow.
more normal, everyday
Ow.
functioning.
fucking retard?
Uh-oh.
What is this? What are you ready? What is it? What the fuck is this? Serious injury list? Charlie Babbitt? Serious injury list? Are you fucking kidding me?
Number 18 in 1988. Squeezed and pulled and hurt my neck in 1988.
Squeezed and pulled and hurt your neck in 1988. Dr. Brennan, it's Charlie Babbitt.
Where are you, son?
It's not important. What matters is who I'm with.
You have to bring him back, Mr. Babbitt. Do you understand me?
There's no problem whatsoever. It'll be $1.5 million. I'm not greedy. I just want my half. Raymond, don't touch that. That's dirty.
I can't do that, Mr. Babbitt. You know I can't. Just bring him back and bring him back now. This is where he belongs.
I'm his brother. It's not like kidnapping here, is it?
He's always been a voluntary patient here, but that's beside the point. The fact of the matter is, this is where he can get the best care. We're talking about his well-being.
Let's just cut through the bullshit, okay? Now, I am entitled to part of my father's estate. If you don't want to cut a deal with me, I'll fly him back to Los Angeles, stick him in an institution out there, and we can have a custody battle over him. But Miss, he needs toothpicks. Could you help him and get him some? Thank you very much. Now, you want to battle me in the courts? Think about that, Dr. Brenner. Think about that, or we can cut a deal right now.
I don't think you have any idea of the severity of his condition.
Toothpicks. He needs some toothpicks. Can we just get him some toothpicks over here?
And I can't, under any circumstances, make anybody deal with him.
Then I'll see you in court. Another check. Sorry about the toothpicks.
82.
82 what?
Right, so look at that
How much is this?
computation ability. Incredible.
It's a lot more than 82 toothpicks, right?
Of course, 246 total.
Change. Right. How many toothpicks do you need?
250.
Pretty close. Come on, let's go, Ray.
246.
There's 4 left in the box.
Okay, so although that is a movie, it is actually based off of a man in real life who is a savant. by the name of Kim Peek. And we'll watch a little video about him, but another really incredible talent when it comes to memorization is his kind of savant ability.
Kim Peek has really earned his nickname Kimputer. Kim remembers everything as pure, unfiltered data, like a computer does. The real Rain Man knows 2,000 years of calendar dates, all the dialing codes and highway systems in the USA, all the historic dates in the world, and every tune he's ever heard. But he cannot fry an egg or dress himself. He will never have a driving license or a girlfriend. That would just be too much for his brain. Kim is over 50, but still lives with his father Fran in Salt Lake City. Every day, his father dresses him, brushes his teeth, and accompanies him to the city library. Over the years, Kim has read about 12,000 books.
12,000.
A single word. He has never learnt them by heart. He has simply read them, every book exactly once. There are over 200 boxes worth of books stored on his brain's hard drive.
When they gave him the test, they gave him 8 pages. He read them in 53 seconds, and 2 hours later had a 98.7% recall, including the page numbers. So he got them all in order. So there's something in his optical system allows him to put things in order when he's reading. I asked if I could take the same test because his brain was the only thing anybody studied. It took me 23 minutes to read what he read in 53 seconds, and I had a 45% recall, which was normal.
All right, so there you have it, our real-life Rain Man, Kim Peek. Love him. Okay, now moving on to our last theory of intelligence, we have Robert Sternberg. So he came up with the triarchic theory of intelligence, right? And we know that tri means 3, so he says that there are 3 types of intelligences. The first one is analytical, or what we'd call academic problem solving. Then we have creative intelligence and practical intelligence. So analytical is definitely more targeted towards our school smarts, our book smarts, and tests more of that convergent thinking, so trying to find that one correct answer. So this is what you'd call that traditional book smart intelligence. And it's our ability to compare, contrast, explain, analyze, find the correct answer, all that, kind of the stuff that would be measured by IQ tests. Then we have our creative intelligence, which is much more about our divergent thinking. So trying to see new relationships among concepts, use experience and knowledge in new ways, right? So trying to create new novel ideas and thinking outside of the box. And then finally, we have our street smarts, which is our practical intelligence. And this is our ability to cope with the everyday environment. I hope you watch John Mulaney. If you don't, he's great. Watch him on Netflix. His comedy specials are good. But our street smarts, so let's go back. So analytical, again, this would be if you go to college and you're able to do well on a test. Creative would be being able to come up with new ideas, maybe solve some problems. And then practical, this would be your ability to if you went to college, to do well because you understand how to get to your classes, how to live on your own independently, how to go to office hours for help, how to navigate the bus system, right? So think of it as kind of your everyday, being able to adapt to new environments. If you're in the workplace, you're kind of understanding oh, this is how I use this machine, etc. So these are your 3 types of intelligence: analytical, creative, practical. I remember it because of the acronym ACP, right? You guys have to do your ACP work. So you can remember ACP, analytical, creative, and practical. And then finally, the last type of intelligence, we don't have a specific person to really talk about this that we need to know, but we have our emotional intelligence. So this is our ability to perceive, express, use, understand, and regulate or manage our emotions. So also kind of called our social intelligence. And this is what you can think of as Gardner's interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligence, right? So it's our ability to understand and regulate our own emotions, but also to communicate and express those with other people and understand other people's emotions. So to sum it all up, we have Charles Spearman with general intelligence, that we have one type of intelligence that determines how we perform in a multitude of areas. And he used factor analysis as his form of empirical evidence to support this. I remember Spearman because it can be hard. People easily mix up the names and the corresponding theories. So a way to remember Spearman being with general intelligence, I think he's like spearing, like you have one intelligence and you're like spearing it through all the different content areas, right? It's like one thing spearing all of the different intelligence areas because it's determining how you're performing. Gardner has multiple intelligence. You can remember Gardner as multiple intelligence, maybe because you have naturalistic as one of those, and like Gardner, right? So you can remember that way. And he again says that there's not just one, but we have multiple different types of intelligence. You could be intelligent in bodily kinesthetic, but maybe not when it comes to logical, mathematical, and still be considered intelligent. And he used savants as his kind of case study evidence, empirical evidence to support this theory. And then finally, we have triarchic intelligence theory with Sternberg. And the way I remember this is like an iceberg. And this might make more sense later on when we talk about the Freud iceberg theory of like id, ego, superego. But you can think of like you have the iceberg, there's 3 parts, or almost like a pyramid where you have like the bottom part, the second part, the third part. So there's 3 types of intelligence: analytical, creative, and practical. So we have our 3 types of intelligence. Again, you can remember that by ACP acronym. Analytical is your school smarts, book smarts. It would be testing kind of how you're doing on an IQ test. Creative, right? That's your divergent thinking, thinking outside the box, creating new relationships, new ideas. And practical, right? Street smarts, your ability to kind of navigate new environments and, navigate everyday life successfully. All right. So there you have it. Make sure you're finishing up the guided notes from this video, but otherwise you are good to go. Have a nice day, everyone, and I will see you all tomorrow.